We are back, and we are joined now by David Dole, host of the Rational National. Or are you the Rational National? How does that?
Uh,
How do you?
I kind of want to change the name. I'm like over it.
Yeah,
But
I think it might be
I
too
guess I
late.
am the rational national. Yeah, it's too late now. You can't, once you commit, it's for 6 years. It's too late to change it now.
I
But
think
I
it's a
guess I
good.
am the rational national.
I think it's a good name, David. I
Yeah.
still remember the very first time I heard it, and I thought you were maybe a right wing sort of a
That's right.
centrist contrarian podcast.
Oh
I'm
man,
like, who's this?
if we want to go back to 2017 when I called in to set the show to defend Jimmy Dore, let's not go back there.
Was that a thing?
It was this brief time right before it was very clear what Jimmy was doing. The point that I was trying to make back then, it wasn't necessarily to defend
Let's start
Jimmy.
with your most embarrassing take right off the bat.
Yes,
Here we
no,
go.
I think it's important to clear the air. Now that I'm back on, years later. It was actually the funny thing. It was the first week that Jamie had started on the show, and I think it was the first time she saw Sam yell at a caller, and that was me.
Oh yes, yeah. And it's because I mean, look, we were all working through because I think we all agree that the Democrats are not satisfactory.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's just,
Yeah.
different ways to approach that. But yeah, I remember being like, because there was all of the like new atheist sort of stuff. But I think. Look, I have Left Reckoning that's very like left coded, beats people over the head with it. I think it's good to have things that aren't just automatically seen as like
That's true.
leftist podcasts.
Because people might click on it and think like, I love some rationality and
Exactly.
and nationalities.
Yep.
The point I was trying to make back then, though, that I didn't really get across, but was that, and I now know that I'm wrong, and I'll tell you why. Was that because Jimmy and Sam knew each other, that I thought maybe Sam could try and like behind the scenes push him in the right direction. Since then, I got to know Jimmy a little better and realized you can't do that.
No.
There's no
Yeah.
doing that with Jimmy.
He's not a great listener.
No,
We'll just,
not at all.
We'll just put that out there. I also wanted to read this here. Kowalski from Nebraska, one of our favorites, says, "Please let David Dole know that I appreciate him exiting leftist mafia at a reasonable time most nights when his colleagues continue on until the early hours of the morning. It feels like and only seem to be able to read one super chat message every 5 minutes."
Yeah, so every single so we do Leftist Mafia at 8:30 p.m. every single Thursday, and it initially started for a couple hours, and then we would end the show. Since then, we started doing super chats, and now that we can connect all of our accounts to the live stream, we're all getting super chats. There have been some days that have gone 5 hours, and we're talking like well into past midnight. I have a child. I have to wake up in the morning. I mean, to be fair, Binder has two. I don't know how the hell he does it, but he's on all night answering all the super chats. Last night, I'm like, I got to bow out early because we also covered the debate live the day before, and that was just too draining for me to do two 4-hour streams in a row. I just bowed out.
Yeah, I hear you. Binder just, he's built different, as the kids say.
I don't know how he does it.
He enjoys this stuff so much. That debate was, well, first, before we get into the debate, Trump mugshot, how do you rank it? I mean, in terms of like, if you were Tyra Banks and judging him on America's Next Top Model, it's a little menacing. It's not so much of a smize as she would encourage people to do. That's Smiling with Your Eyes for people who never watched that show, and still have more brain cells than I do. But it was still for me satisfying to see the mugshot. I'll be real.
My first reaction was I was surprised how close it was to the fake one, because the fake one had been circulating for like the hour before.
Yes,
and then the real one came out, and it's that, but he just looks a little thinner. Like it's just a serious looking face. Binder made the point last night, and I agree with him, that Trump should have smiled. Like if he wanted to really make this a thing and like sell even more T-shirts to fund his defense. That he should have smiled, done something, I don't know, weird, but it's just a very basic. I think it's going to be quickly forgotten. I like a lot of the photoshops that have been done afterwards. I saw one with all of his co-conspirators. They're all dressed up as Batman villains, so that was my favorite. Just one where Trump has like a mustache. So I'm enjoying that more than the actual mugshot. That said, though, it's just good to see this guy with a mugshot. And sometimes I have hope that there's going to be some repercussions and maybe some prison time. Other times I'm like, there's no way. He's too popular, he's too famous, he's not going to have any face any real repercussions. But I like that we're on the path towards potentially that happening. So it's a good move in the right direction.
I don't even. I mean, again, I at least from the federal indictment, it seems so airtight. But we can't make these determinations because there's so many factors that are completely out of the control of everybody involved, and also outside of what is rational here. I mean, it's a swirling stew of a bunch of different factors. But back to the debate, we also covered it as well. The C team, the VP auditions or whatever it is. I mean, let's play this clip here of Trump responding to the debate. I guess Trump and Vivek rhymes with cake Ramaswamy have a bit of a bromance brewing. He can't say Ramaswamy. He's been saying Ramaswamy. I'm not sure if he does that in this clip. Maybe he's figuring it out. But that seems like Vivek's strategy is cozying up to Trump and being the candidate that is not threatening to him in any real meaningful way. But this is what Trump had to say about Ramaswamy's performance after he called into Greg Kelly's show on Newsmax quite late. He was running late, and Greg Kelly had to extend past his traditional hour on Newsmax to accommodate him. But here we go.
As far as the stage last night, I thought Vivek, as we say, did very well. So actually, his name is Vivek, like cake.
Yep.
But I thought he was very good. I especially liked where he said I was the greatest president in his lifetime and long beyond. That's pretty good. I said, are you sure he's running against me? But I thought he was very good. As far as...
Sorry, can I just say, my recollection might be hazy from that night, but I believe what Vivek said was he's the best president of the 21st century, which is not my lifetime.
Well, but good enough for me. It makes sense. Like, what Vivek is doing is probably good and for his career, right? He apparently was in talks at one point to be a Daily Wire guy, and that fell through. Natural next step is running for president. I guess he's hoping at worst he'll get a very lucrative book deal out of this. Although he's nearly, his net worth is nearly $1 billion. He had a biotech company that was
pump and dumped some failed, turned out medical procedures. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, what is your reaction, I guess, to the way that Vivek Ramaswamy is running his campaign and how clearly it is seemed designed to appeal to Trump and MAGA world?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think this is clearly a move, a career move more than anything. You could look at someone even like Andrew Yang when it comes to the Democratic Party. Who the hell knew who that was until he ran for president? So it's more of like he's using this as a jumping off point for whatever the hell else he wants to do in the future. Maybe he's thinking, I could move for a VP spot. I'm not sure if he even really wants that. I think he more just wants the attention. He wants to sell books. And, do we know why he rose so prominently? I mean, obviously his wealth is a part of it, but I'm just curious why media latched onto him so quickly. It seems like he really came out of nowhere, and now we all know who this guy is, and he's like skyrocketing.
It seems very much, and I have no idea. I'm sure there's going to be more investigation into it, but
anti-woke books. And
yeah,
stuff like that.
And also he's very well financially connected with hedge funders and other kind of libertarian Wall Street freaks. We saw them propel, JD Vance to the Senate. It's maybe a different crew, but similar waters that they're swimming in, like backing guys like Blake Masters too. There's this whole crop of faux populist libertarian rich guys that have a lot of deep pockets at their disposal trying to win political office. That's my take.
Yeah.
From the outside. But curious maybe if we could just take a quick pivot here. David, you are Canadian.
I know what's coming.
This is important context.
Yes.
As a Canadian, do you disavow Jordan Peterson?
100% this is
Okay. Well, good. We can keep
as
you.
do I think most Canadians do, I have to say. Though that voice he has, I think all Canadians are able to do the Jordan Peterson impression. It's something innate within all of us. So he has really taken it on as his personality, but it's something that we all have the ability to perform.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Canadians are rejecting him, including the
courts and
the courts
ethics bodies.
and the ethics bodies for psychologists within Canada, because maybe you shouldn't be able to use your massive platform to call Elliot Page's doctors criminal butchers, among other insane claims. God help anybody that was a patient in his practice. But Matt, you did the deep dive
to
here.
me, this is the big sort of disciplinary breakthrough that happened yesterday. The mugshot's one thing, but Jordan Peterson now, when you talk about him, you can officially call him formally a professional disgrace. Because he appealed a ethics sort of ruling by the I think the Society of Ontario. What is it?
The Association of Academic Psychologists,
right?
In college psychologists in Canada.
And they're upset because, among other things, and you can see how he characterizes it, but I'll characterize it beforehand. Saying things like Elliot Page's doctors are criminals, or calling somebody a prick, P-R-I-K. David, do Canadians spell prick P-R-I-K, or is that just a Jordan Peterson thing?
So I saw that misspelling, and I got to be honest, I don't know. I don't think I've ever written down the word prick, so I'm not even sure exactly how we're supposed to spell it.
And he also was very glib about suicide, like saying, I think there's an overpopulation problem, then go kill yourself, basically. And it's like, look, I'm not a fan.
Probably shouldn't do that as a psychologist.
Yes, when you have
also make fun of someone's weight, like the whole picture that he's like not beautiful, like that. When there's like eating disorders are an issue, like you can't be a psychologist and be talking about something
affirming.
Fat.
Sorry, like what does they say? Sorry, not attractive. Sorry, not beautiful, and
sorry,
no amount of authoritarian tolerance. We'll put that up in a second. But I want to, because he acts like they're not letting him complain about the local alderman, and what it is like, hey, you're one of us, and you put it in your bio that you're a clinical psychologist. Can you please not call practicing clinicians criminals and talk about suicide like that? But anyway, so he appealed that ruling to a court, and the court, it came back to us yesterday.
Debate tonight. That's fun. I'm perplexed, I would say, about the situation in Canada. I've been thinking about it this morning. As you know, the court that we appealed the College of Psychologists' decision to decided that the college it's within the college's purview to stop me from having any political opinions, as far as I can tell.
Pause it one second. So, Jordan, it's not just that you think capitalism takes people out of poverty. They're not saying, Jordan, please don't say that. They're saying, don't call gender affirming care doctors criminals with your giant platform.
Yes. And I just want to say, is he talking to his daughter here?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's wearing a zoot
dad
suit.
Was being professionally disgraced, and the very first thing it is let's get in front of millions of people, and you sort of explain it in a way that really doesn't sort of address the actual complaint, Jordan.
Yep.
Stop me from having any political opinions, as far as I can tell. The decision, which I posted on Twitter and will post in the description of this video, starts out by making a case for the fundamental reality of freedom of speech for Canadians in Canada, and then says, but, and that's always a bad start when you're talking about freedom of speech, but apparently the college has the right to decide that I can be re-educated forcibly with the risk of my license.
Now, pause. I don't know if they're going to be doing the milking tables that he's so afraid of, but I will just read from the first paragraph of this section. Reasons for the decision overview. When individuals join a regulated profession, they do not lose their charter right to freedom of expression. At the same time, however, they take on obligations and must abide by the rules of their regulatory body that may limit their freedom of expression. This case raises the clash between a regulated clinical psychologist's right to speak in a certain manner and the regulator's power to require the member to moderate that speech. And they go through it like he had plenty of opportunities
Yes.
to say like, hey, don't call that person a criminal or a prick or like...
And doesn't he just have to take an online course, and that is the authoritarian
all he had to do
censorship.
All he had to do is take a social media course, and this would have been like it. But this is why he didn't do that, and why he doesn't ultimately care. He doesn't need first of all, he's not currently practicing, so he doesn't need this license. So it's more lucrative for him to use this as a way to play victim. And use this, as a way to, this video has like 1 million views now. I bet. Like this is a new grift for him. Well,
100%.
I'm so pro free speech. They kicked me out of being a clinical psychologist.
It's all a bunch of
bullshit.
Yeah.
Also, it's worth mentioning.
Go ahead.
Back in 2018, he also received a misconduct complaint while he was practicing, and at that point, he did agree to improve what he had been criticized of. So. The only thing that's changed now is that he has a Daily Wire contract, and he doesn't need to be a practicing psychologist. So that's why he's using this as a way to just grift.
It's a little, exactly. It's a little bit of a burden on him now. But I gotta say, like, I do think this is short-term thinking. I think like a quarterly profits thinking, because like Jordan, when Joe Rogan has him on, he's like, this guy is a clinical psychologist. That is like part of the biography. I don't know if you're just a podcaster now.
But they bump up against the actual practical realities of what they do, right? In the sense that like you can only do this for so long. It's the same thing with Dave Rubin being a classical liberal. Once you get to a natural endpoint, you have to abandon it. And the cash cow goes away at that point because you're branding as this intellectual that's going to say what you want to, what the left doesn't want to hear. That goes away when people realize actually you're a lunatic and you don't even have a license anymore.
Yeah, and it's not just the left. It's like professional ethics bodies, which are very not like, they're not actually concerned that you like have these absolutely abhorrent retrograde views on like trans affirming care. They just don't want you to advertise it publicly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's not like re-education. It's like social media training.
Yeah, they're afraid of him undermining the way that the college looks, like the undermining the regulatory body that oversees it. For him to and he knows all this stuff. He's just playing stupid. Like this is the guy is completely like his tweets. Sometimes like I'll hear of a tweet he did and I go to and it's like that day I go to find it and I have to keep scrolling and scrolling. He's tweeting like every 5 minutes. I don't know what the hell's going on with it.
They're all haikus. Like they all have this weird,
there's like a Joker picture. Like there's a lot of Joker pictures now. Apparently, it's also.
So that's what he's leaning into with the outfit. I mean,
no. The outfit is a suit version of his logo,
and it has notice it's autographed as well.
Yeah,
his own autograph is on it.
I now see that. I now see it all coming together. It is not aesthetically pleasing.
I thought he was sponsored by like Reese's Pieces or something like that.
Not attractive suit. Sorry.
But let's continue a little bit more. It's really good.
Because I made political statements that the members of the college don't agree with, and those opinions involve two criticisms of Justin Trudeau, one criticism of his chief of staff, one criticism of an Ottawa city councillor, and then my objection on Joe Rogan to the climate apocalyptic fear-mongering that idiot tyrants are foisting on the general population.
Now let's go through this a little bit, Bradley. I have a clipped section there, or if you can go pick up the PDF, there's a section numbering the actual complaints about him. And it's not really that, hey, don't criticize like local politicians. It's like, don't call them pricks. And like the thing he says with the Joe Rogan thing is kind of interesting to get into. If you can zoom in, Bradley. That B section there, various comments on the podcast Dr. Peterson made on the January 25th, 2022 appearance on the podcast Joe Rogan Experience. Peterson is identified as a clinical psychologist. See, that's a relevant part. They keep saying like he's identifying himself with this, which is why the body has to be like, hey,
tone it down,
represent us. And spoke about a vindictive client whose complaint about him was a pack of lies. And then speaking about air pollution and child deaths, Dr. Peterson says, a quote, "It's just poor children and the world has too many people on it anyways." Now, Jordan Peterson, that I watched that full context, and Jordan Peterson is summarizing what he suggests as the anti population there's too much people on the, he says like that's not true. The thing that's quoted that he says there, he actually later says it's not true, but he can't get into that, which is kind of a misquote of him, because this entire thing is not really that he's criticizing climate policy. It's that he is telling people to kill themselves
Yes.
if they believe in overpopulation, which as a clinical psychologist, not something you like can do. I'm sorry. Like, even if I agree that like I don't like overpopulation stuff. I think it's like Malthusian, whatever, right? Like I personally as a podcaster wouldn't say, "Hey, go kill yourself."
Yes.
For that.
Yeah.
And I am not I'm
Clinical
not like
psychologist.
a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have like a responsibility when you have a platform and how to use that platform. Like he'll claim that he's being targeted because he's Jordan Peterson and saying these things. The reality is the reason why this is a problem is because of the platform that he has. And even so, during the initial complaint, there was one of the psychologists came out and said, if I had done a quarter of the things that he said, I would be questioned. Like my license would be taken away. And that's someone who isn't well known, right? So you have somebody who you magnify that times a million with someone like Jordan Peterson. It's even more important to deal with this because of the focus that is on him as this public figure.
Yeah. And just another one, lest you take his like, oh, they won't let me criticize the local politicians. A tweet on February 19, 2022, in which Dr. Peterson commented that Catherine McKenney, an Ottawa city councillor who uses they, them pronouns, was a, quote, appalling, self-righteous, moralizing thing.
Thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, bro. Like,
You're engaging in like
sorry.
active
Ooh.
dehumanization.
I'm sorry for doing politics.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And he still has the 100% right to engage in this in a capacity that is not as a clinical psychologist. If he
exactly.
wants to rip up and resign from his post or make sure that it's publicly clear that he's no longer acting in that capacity. But that undercuts him from a financial perspective and the branding that he's been putting forward as this faux intellectual. Should we keep going?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Mongering that idiot tyrants are foisting on the general population.
Foisting.
Now, apparently that makes me unprofessional and a disgrace to the profession, such that I am now going to be required, the college can go ahead with this, to put me into a re-education program with their so-called social media experts. And that's also, by the way, a profession that does not exist, until I learn my lesson, whatever that is, regardless of how much time that takes, by their judgment, or they can take my license away. And so the court says, well, of course you have freedom of speech, Dr. Peterson, but because you're a professional, you're bound by your professional organization. And apparently they're not bound, even though they're a government organization, fundamentally. Apparently they're not bound by that fundamental constitutional axiom. And so that shows you all you...
They're not, it's not like they're free speech that they're doing where they're like, they can decide what their ethics are and who they're allowed to have represent them publicly. That, like, I don't know what he's saying. Like, well, you guys get to have free speech by saying I'm a freak that has bad opinions, but I don't get allowed to have free speech. That's a hypocritical.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have different standards than, just general free speech in Canada. Like he can still go on and say whatever dumb shit he wants on Twitter. He just doesn't get to call himself a clinical psychologist. Pretty simple. And this is, again, he knows all this, and he is simply using this as a jumping off point because all he has to do is take this course, but he does not want to change how he behaves online. I think that's the most important point here, is that even if he took the course, he's not going to change, and he realizes at some point it's going to be taken away anyways. I'm sure somewhere, but maybe it's in his contract for the Daily Wire where you have to, keep up this sort of this sort of persona that he has developed for himself. And Twitter is a main part of that. So he has to tweet this dumb shit all the goddamn time. Otherwise, he's not fulfilling whatever contract he has. And
this is kind of like full circle for him, because he came onto the scene with that sort of like freak out that's saying, I'm going to be gulagged unless I, bow down to the trans gods. And it turned out that didn't happen. He's been free ever since then.
Yep.
And the only issue he's had is with professional ethics organizations and not like the police.
And everything's a re-education for him. I mean, the amount of victimization that he ascribes to like his very existence is just hilarious to me. I would love, like, you know, when I started here, I had to take like the New York State sexual harassment training, and oh my God, that was a half hour to
Re-education.
45 minutes out of my life. I was put into a re-education camp where I had to take a little quiz questions on the internet to say that I wouldn't, you know, comment on the physical physique of my coworker. That's a re-education camp, according to him. He's so flimsy and weak, like he could blow away like a leaf in the wind. That's just how fragile that dude's ego is. Is there more?
Of course.
Good.
To Canadians who are listening, and everyone outside of the country who might be the least bit interested in Canada, that shows you exactly what our bloody Constitution is worth. And if Canadians are so daft that they don't think that that's a problem, well, they're going to figure it out over the next 15 years, because
It's a long time.
there's absolutely no excuse for this. So that's what I'm thinking. Now, there's part of me that's thinking, well, look, Peterson, the College of Psychologists is after you. You've taken it to court. Now the judges have decided that you're wrong. Maybe you're wrong. And I think, well, I expressed political sentiment and I'm actually informed. And so for the life of me, I can't see how I'm wrong.
That person is a
I think
prick.
I have a responsibility to say what I think, and I think many people agree with that. And I think the fundamental consequence of that around the world has been massively beneficial to people.
Oh my God.
So I think, number one, what the hell? And number two, bring it on and see what happens. Because I will make absolutely every bit of this public in a way that the college and the courts can hardly even imagine.
Oh, all right. Pause it for
We'll
a sec.
see who cancels who.
His Jesus complex is unreal. Go to section
my God.
16 here in this PDF that so this is what it says. On September 6, 2022, Dr. Peterson rejected the ICRC's proposal. In a lengthy letter to the college, Dr. Peterson acknowledged that his various social media platforms he utilizes requires careful attention to and care to be used appropriately, and that he had already implemented the solution to respond to the college's concerns. Okay, so what are these solutions that he's referring to? Which included modification of the tone of my approach. Dr. Peterson said that he had surrounded himself with people to help him monitor his public communications and provide him with continual feedback as to the appropriateness of tone and content of what I am purveying. These people included, Dr. Peterson said, his expert editorial teams at Penguin Random House, which publishes his books, members of his immediate family who work professionally with me, so his daughter.
Who he can't be honest with about actually the complaints. He can't be like, oh yeah, they're mad I called that guy a prick and called that one counselor a thing and said Elliot Page's doctors were criminals.
And a very wide network of expert thinkers from the world of theology, psychology, politics, and business.
Ben Shapiro.
And people have also like interpreted this as him saying it's his Twitter followers. And then this is his exact quote. I would say then in my defense that I have already undertaken the remediation of my actions in a manner very much akin to what has been suggested by the ICRC, and have done so in an exceptionally thorough and equally exceptionally public and transparent manner, and would like to therefore submit to the ICRC that I have already and plan to continue to atone for what are no doubt my multiplicity of sins in relation to my interaction with the public audience that I have a privilege to serve. So like, I'm not sure what remediation he's referring to there, except for him saying that he like has spoken to his publisher, his daughter, and has engaged in Twitter discourse, which counts as remediation within the context of the College of Psychologists of Ontario. It's just, I mean, dude, just give it up already.
Yeah, and it's funny, like he's never really wanted to like he like Elon let him back in despite the Elliot Page thing. But IRC concerns, this is from section 71. The IRC's concerns with Dr. Peterson addressing Elliot Page as quote her and by their prior name, as well as calling a city councilor a thing and a doctor a criminal. Like, bro, be honest with your daughter, bro. How can you come here and say they won't even let me, criticize the local levies that they're like. Be honest with why you're being criticized.
Yes.
It is not political opinions. It's not you saying even that climate change is a hoax. It's you saying, hey, you believe in overpopulation, go kill yourself.
Yeah.
That's signed a clinical psychologist.
I do wonder how much of this is an act and how much of it he truly believes, because he's clearly worked himself into believing that he is the victim here. But, when the doors are closed, when the cameras are off, is he sitting there thinking, they're right. Like
Yeah.
he's a smart enough guy to know. Like he has, especially
But he's
considering in
also
2018
lost
he
it.
acknowledged he had problems and he tried to change them. It's just
Yeah.
he doesn't need that. He doesn't need that license now. So it's a different situation.
I got remediated in Russia.
Yeah, I mean he's the coma totally was me repenting for my sins.
I'll meet diet, and you still want me to stop saying these things about doctors.
No amount of self-flagellation will be enough for you authoritarian freaks.
I'm also wondering if this is an avenue for him to like hang out with his daughter.
Well, that whole
they
thing
have
is
that
just what is
She says, "Hi, Dad. Good to see you." And he's like, "Hi, Mick. What's up?"
Actually, we can continue. I think there's a little bit more awkwardness maybe
Oh.
on that front.
Oh.
Because she's like, "Oh yeah, so you're doing okay then."
You not talk off camera.
So away we go. So that's how I'm doing.
That's how you're doing. Okay, but good.
Yeah, but good. You know, I mean, I didn't look. The court decision was worse than I thought it would be. I was already pessimistic. I figured the court would take the coward's way out and basically upbraid the college for procedural inadequacy, because one of the things the college
That's it. Procedural inadequacy, and it turns out the court is like, actually, this procedure was adequate, and you need to slow your fucking roll or be done being a clinical psychologist.
yeah. It's very very reasonable. Well,
So now, just everybody, just a style guide update. Whenever you talk about Jordan Peterson, you can say disgraced clinical or former, now disgraced clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson.
that's fun.
Definitely.
All right, David. Well, we'll let you go now, but anything you want to plug? I mean, we talked a bit about your channel over there, The Rational National. Everyone should check that out. You do great work. Leftist Mafia. Anything else?
No, that's it. Just therationalnational.com, and that'll take you to the YouTube page or therationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. And yeah, every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we do the Leftist Mafia podcast live.
Awesome. All right. Well, really appreciate you coming on. Always good to chat with you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.